This is your homework helper, Mrs. Anderson. Today I will help you with Lesson 5, Add Unlike Fractions. Please have your homework page ready and let's begin. On this homework helper section, we're looking for 1/6 plus 1/4. The very first thing that I like to do when I'm adding unlike fractions is to write the problem in this direction. Okay, now I need to look at the denominators. I have 6 and 4. I need the greatest common factor of 6 and 4. Okay, 6 and 4. 6 is going to be 1 and 6 are the factors, 2 and 3. Oh, let's see. I'm sorry. I got a little bit mixed up here. We're going to do multiples of 4 and 6. I'm sorry. So let's do 4. Multiples of 4 actually are 4, 8, 12, and let's see, 6, we have 6, 12, so 12 is going to be our least common denominator. So I'm going to extend my fraction bar and write 12 on the bottom. Now I'm going to ask myself, what do I do with 6 to get to 12? Well, I'll need to times 2, so I'll times by 2 on the top as well. What do I do with the 4 to get to 12? Well, I'll take 4 and I'll times by 3 and times by 3. Okay, now I look at my numerators and the operation 2 plus 3 equals 5, and my denominator is 12. So my answer here is 5/12 because it cannot be simplified, and here's a model of 5/12. 1/6 plus 1/4 is the same as 5/12. All right, let's take a look at this one. Here I have 8 and 10, so I need to get a common multiple of 8 and 10. I'm going to do it this way. I like to do the big number first, so I'll do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now I'm going to take the 8 and I'm going to ask myself, will 8 go into 10 evenly? No, it won't. Will 8 go into 20 evenly? No. Will 8 go into 30 evenly? No. Will 8 go into 40 evenly? Yes, it will. So 40 is my common denominator. Now I'm going to take 5/8 plus 3/10, and I need to write it like in a column. So I'll write it right here. 5/8 plus 3/10. Okay, it might be easier to do this on another piece of paper so that you have more room, because now I'm going to extend my fraction bar and my lowest common denominator is 40. So I ask myself, what do I do with 8 to get to 40? Well, I do 8 times 5. So I'll times, since I times by 5 on the bottom, I'm also going to times by 5 on the top. 5 times 5 is 25. All right, and 10. I'm going to times by 4. 10 times 4 to get to 40, so I will times by 4 up here on the top. 3 times 4 is 12. Now I look at my numerators and my operation. I'm adding. So 25 plus 12 is going to be 37, and my denominator stays the same, so the answer is 37/40. You'll go ahead and do number 2 and number 3. Remember to get the greatest common factor first, then change the denominator to whatever the greatest common factor is, and we call that the lowest common denominator. Then change the numerators and add. Once you add, let's say that you end up with an answer like 9/12. If you got 9/12, then you would need to simplify this problem. So I would extend my, simplify the fraction, sorry. So I'd extend my fraction bar, and then I'd ask myself, what number goes into both 9 and 12? What is the greatest number that does? Well, that's going to be 3. So I'll divide by 3 on the top, divide by 3 on the bottom, and I end up with 3/4, and this is, now this fraction is simplified. All right, let's take a look on the back. Tashia ate 1/3 of a pizza, and Jay ate 3/8 of the same pizza. What fraction of the pizza was eaten? I'm going to need to add those together, so I'll do 1/3 plus 3/8. Okay, I think it's going to be easier to do it over here, so I'll have more room. 1/3 plus 3/8. I need the greatest common factor. I'm sorry. I need the lowest common multiple. I've been saying that wrong, sorry. So you'll do multiples of 3 and multiples of 8. Okay, and when you find the number, multiples of 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. And I know that 8 goes into 24, so it is going to be 24 on this one. Then you figure out what to do to get to 24 and complete the problem. Basir took a science test on Friday. 1/8 of the questions were multiple choice, and 3/4 of the questions were true-false questions. What part of the total number of questions are either multiple choice or true-false questions? I'll need to add 1/8 plus 3/4. And I do it exactly how I did this problem and the ones on the front. If you don't remember how I did them, then go back and watch it again so that you remember about getting the lowest common denominator. All right, Edison delivers 1/5 of the newspapers in the neighborhood, and Anita delivers 1/2 of them. Together, Edison and Anita deliver what fraction of the newspapers? You're going to do the very same thing we've been doing on the last problems. Add those together. Dylan and Sonia are hiking different trails. If Dylan hiked Riverwalk and Mountain View, and Sonia hiked Mountain View and Pine, how many miles did each of them hike? Well, for Dylan, he hiked Riverwalk and Mountain View, so you'll add those two together for his total. And Sonia hiked Mountain View and Pine, so you'll add these two together for her total. And then how many miles did each of them hike? So you'll write down how many miles Dylan hiked and how many miles Sonia hiked. All right, and here's a practice. Which expression will have the same sum as 3/8 plus 1/4? 3/8 plus 1/8. Well, I can see that on this one, if I change it to 1/8, I also have to change the numerator, so that is not going to be equivalent. This one, I have 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, okay, which does equal 3/8. 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 is 3/8. And then the rest of the problem says plus 1/4, which is what this one says. Here I have 3/4 plus 1/4. I can't change 3/8 to 3/4. They're not equivalent. And here I have 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. That tells me this part of it, but of the expression, but it doesn't, it leaves out the 1/4, so it's definitely this one. Thanks for watching this homework helper video. If you have questions, feel free to ask me tomorrow at school.